Hey everyone, how is it going? My name is Rudy Caceres. A round of applause um, to my lovely panel for that amazing intro that I definitely could not have done myself. So you're watching SPSM Chat. Our theme for today is suicide prevention actually working? And suicide prevention is in quotation marks or hashtag suicide prevention because that is a brand, apparently. And so we're going to be talking about the efficacy, if you will. There's probably going to be a lot of shit talking, to be honest. But we're also going to talk about what can work, what does work, and how we can improve. But we're mostly going to shit talk. So if you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you care. Whether you're on Twitter, I see the live stream. Rest in peace, Periscope, but we live on Twitter Live nevertheless. So it looks awesome there. We are pinned to the top already. So that's an awesome feature. And we are also on twitch.tv/SPSM chat. How easy is that to remember? And facebook.com/SPSM chat, of course, and youtube.com/SPSM chat. Thank you, Up for the Challenge, for hosting us. Your hosting is suicide prevention actually working. That was one thing I forgot to fix. But yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everyone else, you can make my lights go off either following on YouTube, hosting, or following or rating on Twitch, or you can share, or follow us on Facebook. So how cool is that? Without further ado, let's get to our esteemed panel. And first, and certainly as most, tell the whole world, the whole SPSM, that's not, there we go. Who is Isabel Garcia?
Wow. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Ysabel Garcia. I use she, her pronouns, and I consider myself a suicide awareness and social justice educator. I currently own my own business or initiative called Estoy Aqui. And basically, what I do is I raise awareness about the social and cultural factors of suicide in the Latinx and Black community through racial justice training and intergroup dialogue. And my work is based on my lived experience with suicide. I have had suicidal thoughts since I was a child. And because of my immigrant experience, she's attached to a bunch of assimilation, acculturation, a bunch of these things. I have unfortunately been involuntarily hospitalized throughout my time here in the US. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my story.
Yes, and this is your first time on SPSM chat, and definitely not the last.
Oh,
because you are a person of many takes, and whenever we're in need of something hot as far as takes are concerned, we are going to have you on. So be on the lookout for that.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. So let's get on to our next panelist. Tell the whole world. Hopefully, I can get this right. Awesome. Who is up for the challenge?
Hi everyone, as Rudy just said, I'm up for the challenge. I'm a mental health facilitator on Twitch. I also have written a couple of books which will hopefully actually come out soon, but on various areas of mental health, not specifically on suicide awareness or prevention, on mental health in general. However, I do have lived experience with suicide attempts myself. And also know people that have been able to complete suicide. And I probably have a very different take personally on when I've been stopped from suicide than others I know were on the panel last week anyway. I'm also currently studying for a master's degree in global mental health, as well as a diploma in counseling and cognitive behavioral therapy. However, I am not a big fan of all parts of that. So I just like to know things rather than just be a positivity streamer, which I see so much and really irritates the hell out of me. When Rudy said about it's going to be a bit of shit talking tonight, I think that's pretty banned. So yeah.
Yes, and this is also your first time on SPSM chat, which is awesome. I'm glad we reeled you in because Joelle and we big fans of you on Twitch, which if people do not know about your Twitch channel and your YouTube channel, which this show is actually going to be featured on tomorrow. Can you give a quick shout out to those two things?
Yeah, so obviously I'm, as I said, a Twitch streamer, so Up for the Challenge, so twitch.tv/Up4thechallenge. That's me on Twitch, and I literally I do not game at all. So if you're hoping I'm going to do stream raid or something like that, I don't know the first thing. And then I also have two channels on YouTube. I have three, but two for the purposes of mental health. That's a podcast, which Joelle has actually been on before in terms of mental health chat on various different topics, which this is literally going to go straight on to that tomorrow. And it's YouTube. .co.uk or .com, I think works the same way, /Let's Chat Podcasts with an S at the end. And then I also have another channel, which is Up for the Challenge MH, which is just a mental health chat, which with short 4 or 5 minute videos on various subjects as well.
If I may ask and be as bold to ask, what exactly is the challenge for which you are up for?
Okay, this goes back to the last time I thought about suicide, so that's about right. So yes, the reason for Up for the Challenge actually comes from the channel I didn't mention because it's a kind of a personal channel. My wife passed away in November 2019, and I didn't know what the fuck else to do, basically. But I could raise money for charity. I'd done that before. So the idea was to do a load of challenges, marathons, mountain climbs, various things like that, and put it on YouTube to try and raise money for the charity my wife had asked me to help. So that was the reason for it. Basically, it was Up for the Challenge because that's what I was at the time. And it's just continued like that. And then I came on Twitch to check some things out, and it just automatically kept the name. And I thought, yeah, okay, that kind of fits. So,
well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're on this show, and I know it's a little late there over there in the UK. So thank you for staying up with us. I know you have an option of whether to sleep or be on this show, and you chose us. Hooray!
I don't sleep. That's a bad thing.
Yes, we are anti-sleep. Speaking of Joelle, tell the whole world. For the millionth time, but maybe for those who don't know you as well as they should, who is Joelle Marie?
Okay, it changes every time. So I am a peer specialist. That means I use my kind of crappy experience in the mental health system to support others in not having a crappy experience in the mental health system. I mean, if they choose, it's also about supporting people in the goals that they choose and, navigating whatever those goals are and whatever systems they are a part of to have a better quality of life. So I've worked in Massachusetts and California, and now I'm working in Colorado as part of the state crisis system. Let me see. So I'm autistic. I have OCD. I've been diagnosed with bipolar, and that's a whole complicated question about that. But yeah, those are my experiences with diagnosis. And I advocate a lot for voice choice agency, particularly within the context of disability and, in terms of pursuing treatment and receiving treatment and choosing what's going to be a good quality of life and ultimately choosing what happens to us now and after we die and how we die.
Thank you. And we have some Twitch comments here. It says the thought that Rudy Caceres was Luigi in the captions on, and I couldn't keep it together for some reason. That is totally fine, but I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for sharing Isabel's link as well to their website. So let's get into the swing of things. And so thank you, Henry, on Twitter as well for joining us. Feel free to continue introducing yourself. If you're on Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag SPSM. That way I can see all your tweets and give you shout outs and you can be a part of the conversation. But if you're not on Twitter, and I totally get that, we can still see your comments on Twitch, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So keep them coming. We're just talking about the efficacy of suicide prevention campaigns, the good, bad, everything in between, and hey, maybe even the bizarre. So let's get into the swing of things and let's talk about what's been going on in the world of suicide prevention. I just wanted to throw some graphics up just willy-nilly before I hear from each person, just different like slogans, campaigns, and graphics that I see. So this one, it says weight prevention. So here's one type of graphic that you might see like in a suicide prevention campaign. You have like the acronyms. W is watch out for signs of distress and changes in behavior. A is for ask, are you having suicidal thoughts? So on and so forth. You have the green ribbon for mental health. A very, very poor art. Apologies to whoever designed this. I'm sure this is not the full extent of your talent. So we have another one that says step in to prevent suicide.
Freak the fuck out.
Know the difference between suicidal and just 17. Just 7. In case you can't read that, I know it's kind of blurry. And don't know what to do. Find someone who does. And they're probably talking about the police, if we're being honest.
Go find a teacher. I mean, what the fucking hell?
I mean, that's way better than any cop. Here's another one. Tomorrow needs you. I mean, that's nice. That's
Another
nice
thing fucking demanding shit of me. That's what I need.
Yes.
That's a Ronald Reagan re-election campaign, that is. What the fuck was that?
Here's another goodie. 0 reasons why. A teen suicide prevention campaign.
Wow.
That wasn't...
From our good friends at AFSP, that's another graphic. The suicide warning signs. We see a lot of these.
Why is there a martini beside behavior?
Well, because martinis, that's considered risky behavior. I mean, like next thing you know, you've got a situation. So we've got the hope ribbon. What are your thoughts on the hope ribbon, everyone? This is for loss survivors. If I'm What do you, I mean, ribbons in general are kind of cringeworthy. I get what you're going for. All these campaigns, like if you ask them, like they're from the best intentions. I mean, I don't think anyone creates a suicide prevention campaign to like make things worse. So,
well, given those fucking posters, Jesus. I mean, yeah. I literally have I have the mental health first aid book here, which I've done. I would have just smacked it against my head off that first one. I mean, that's just nonsense. I mean, who does it? I mean, that one about find someone who knows better. I mean, that literally sounds like advice you give to kids that are being bullied in the playground. Go and find a teacher. It's all right. It'll be fine. I mean, fuck off. Yes. What the hell is that?
Here's another one. COVID-19 male isolation just got worse. Help the men you love to get the help they need. And it's a dude taking off his mask. So, I mean,
there's a lot there.
If you're talking about COVID-19, you probably shouldn't call your campaign taking the mask off. I'm just saying.
That wasn't even in the there's a lot there. That's like another.
And lastly, here's a golden one. World Suicide Prevention Day. Let's pledge to lend emotional support to the one in need.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
Yes, and it's
I feel like this was a group project, and that doesn't make me feel any better about the result.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Hey, Waba. Waba's feeling it too. So by all means, If you have any of your greatest hits as far as suicide prevention campaigns, Waba, or anyone else there in the comments, feel free to share a graphic or a link to a graphic in the comments. Our Twitch chat is is the Wild West right now, so don't abuse that privilege. So, thoughts? Anything else? Anything else that that either crossed your mind, or was there another campaign in your memory that you thought of, like, oh my god, what the hell were they thinking?
I mean, I have issue with most of these in general. I have issue with anything that calls itself a campaign. But I mean, I came on with the idea of, okay, NHS and the UK charities, I rarely ever see a campaign. They just seem to be there, and that's it. Nobody really knows about them. It's just a nice tick box. But actually, if you look at, say, the posters for them, the posters at least kind of go, you know, working together, and they show some signs of what it is, and nothing actually looks that bad. I'm like, that by itself, the poster puts you off wanting to get involved in it at all. How is that a launch of a campaign? That's a year 8 art fucking project. I mean, what the hell were they thinking?
Oh. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm seeing stuff like, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, like I
mislabeled
you, so like I meant to put on you, Joelle, so go.
Okay. No, I mean, the thing about the suicide warning signs, particularly from AFSP, behavior, I actually pulled it up right now. So, like, behavior, first of all, there's fucking martini glass there. Like, I have issue with people being like, okay, you're drinking, that's a warning sign, you're going to kill yourself. Like, talk about, like, Adam was saying, like, year 8 art project, like, simplifying shit. That is what's hurting people. Like, simplifying things down to, like, ignoring the fact that harm reduction is a thing that exists and actually aids people in, like, avoiding actually killing themselves, but, like, they're using things that for coping. People use alcohol for coping. And while it does, for some people, actually increase risk, the fact that people are drinking more does not actually signify that they're even having thoughts of dying or killing themselves. And the fact that they're putting frickin' martini there as a graphic is just asinine. Like, why are we doing that? And this, and this just, like, graphic simplification and this reduction into, like, lists, like, we can check it off, is just, like, putting people on high alert to, like, find people who fit this criteria so that they can save these people, and then, like, do the right thing instead of, like, talking to people and building this world that's, like, high quality. Just, like, we can go find people and ship them off and get them treated and helped, and I've done my duty according to this poster. It's like, it's
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when people are making these graphics and developing this campaign language and hashtags, in their mind, they're like, nailed it. This is what's gonna save lives, because that should be the goal, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the conversation. But yeah, these campaigns, they have good intentions. They oftentimes they don't consult people with lived experience, or they consult the wrong people with lived experience, or disregard what they're saying, or they only talk to white people. They don't talk to trans people. They don't talk to people of color, indigenous people. And so oftentimes they say, like, well, we consulted people with lived experience, but it's like it's all white people and people of privilege. And so there's that. Thoughts, Ysabel?
Yeah, so the main thing that I see across the campaigns is always about how fast can we eliminate the burden of talking to someone who is suicidal? Like, how fast can the person supporting, quote unquote, supporting the person who is suicidal, how fast can we make them comfortable again? I think that is really the goal of most of these campaigns. It's just really about, how can I, the supporter, feel comfortable and safe again. That's literally it for me. That's what I hear. That's what I read when I look at the checklist, which is why there are more questions than actual listening. So you see a lot of guys with a bunch of different questions to ask, and the listening part gets lost because again, you just want to get to the question: do you want to die? Are you suicidal? Are you gonna attempt it? Yes or no? Right? You just want yes or no. So that way, again, you want to eliminate this burden as fast as you can. So that's what I get from all these campaigns.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else from any of our other esteemed panelists?
I mean, what I find really amusing there is the text, these the closed caption does not seem to like mine or Isabel's accents, and I'm loving the fact that at one point it just said ice cream, which is probably far more helpful than any of those posters.
Right.
So, yeah, I know I could literally give ice cream to someone that's suicidal. At least they're going to probably finish the bowl, because that poster is more likely to drag me down a hole. So one of them really annoyed me as well, because one of them had on that they had to be worried first, which really irritates me because it's a CSI writer's version of suicide. It's this idea that when you find a scene and you go, well, they've bought a ticket to wherever and they've got frozen food, clearly this isn't suicide. That's not how the fucking mind works. Them just presenting as, oh well, they must be worried, they must be down, they must be this, they must be that, otherwise yeah, exactly. So we've got to look at it's number one as well, because it's literally the first one on there is they are worried. Well, I don't see that, they're fine then. No, it's just nonsense. I literally, the last time I actually attempted, rather than just thought, I actually attempted, I was I threw up, and that's all the pills and stuff, and a cold helped me. But I tried, and then I was so pissed off, I just went to bed. And then the next day I walked into the police station and just went, "Hi guys, I think you've been looking for me." But according to that poster, no, I can't do that, because they're two contradictory ways of being in terms of emotion. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
Those kind of campaigns and those kind of posters are way more damaging than anything else. They would have been actually better to not have a campaign, because at least with them not having a campaign, people's ignorance would be would be in that little bubble of, oh well, I'll look out, because they already look out for someone being a bit down or anything, but they wouldn't have had an official poster backing up their ignorance, and that's the biggest problem there.
Yeah, and it should be said, because I was looking up research papers on the efficacy of suicide prevention campaigns, and a lot of them, their metrics are, it's just like, we just want to reduce suicide, or want they people and say like, is this effective? Does this make you feel inside, or what have you? Or does this get people on their medication? Does this get people to go see a psychiatrist or accept involuntary treatment? Things like that. There's not really any talk at all about really improving the person's life to the point where it's the whole point of suicide prevention, in my view, is creating a world where people don't want to kill themselves, and not trying to put barriers in place. Like, oftentimes, things that recommendations for these suicide prevention campaigns, or findings from the reports on the efficacy of these suicide prevention campaigns, or they recommend like means reduction, or getting people to go seek therapy, or go involuntarily check themselves in, call 911, all that stuff, which as we know has a very checkered past, to say the least. And so it still does not address quality of life improvement, addressing systemic issues, because people of color, indigenous, queer people, trans people, you can't just like say like, oh, I'm going to go to therapy now, everything's better, I'm no longer discriminated against, I'm no longer a target. People in the federal government don't want me dead and want to legislate me away and deny my existence. So I really wish that we can integrate that more into suicide prevention campaigns. It feels it's like we shouldn't just have like the Trevor Project and the Trans Lifeline feature only trans people, queer people. It's like even when even like AFSP and NAMI and the other organizations, like you see like a lot of straight white people, and then like the token black person, the token Mexican, the now that we got the token person in the wheelchair, what have you, and so it's very lazy to be honest. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's looking for a headline or to appease a certain part of the electorate. That's all they seem to want to do. These campaigns, the slogans they come out with, all kind of things like that. I mean, in 2018, Matt Hancock, who is the Minister for Health in the UK, literally made a comment that he wanted to make that year to have 0 suicides in the UK. And you're like, okay, that's good. How?
Yeah.
How the fuck are you possibly going to do that? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I don't care. You can have the best suicide prevention in terms of efficacy in the world. I think are Norway and Finland. I think are the 2 best ones, which is ironic because the campaigns have an effect. But I think it's Finland also has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. So even in countries that have good efficacy on their campaigns, there's an issue. So this idea that there's a wand and fucking he's not Harry Potter. What the fuck is he doing? It's like that's the biggest problem for a lot of these is that they're not actually looking for a campaign. They're looking for recreating what they said they'd do or what they had as a campaign slogan. As I said, one of the ones at the end that you showed of Tomorrow Needs You literally looks like a Ronald Reagan re-election campaign. That's how I see that. Because it was the colours as well. Everything about that said, please re-elect me for office. It wasn't anything to do with actually helping anybody. It was to do with, this is a good slogan. So if everything goes wrong, we can still pretend that we did it right because we said the right words in the right order. It's just a simple political move. And this is coming from someone, I come from a political background. I wasn't elected councillor, elected politician in the UK. My first degrees were in politics and political theory. And this is what you do in year 1 to try and get people to continue voting for you, because it's certainly not anything to do with mental health. These are someone that's about to run for office.
It reminds me of, we had a mayor in Los Angeles who made a pledge to fill every pothole in the city. And what became clear after a while, like when that was like way too expensive and unrealistic, they basically just used like really poor like sub asphalt, like that was like basically it was like black and like made like the streets hotter during the summer too. And so it was just like they're gonna fill every pothole even if like they do a shitty job at it and like end up doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think about that. Like, I feel like if like we can use that kind of as like a metaphor, sort of like not a metaphor, the other one, where we say specifically we're comparing them. Okay, whatever. So I'm gonna use that pothole thing. So like saying filling every pothole is like saving lives, but if you're using like shitty materials to fill the potholes, you're going to have to keep on doing it and spend more money filling the potholes. What you should really be doing is like building up public transportation. And like, why are people using so many cars that are like expensive, and people are using more money than they have to like keep these crappy cars running and like damaging the roads. And also like, give people more options to take public transportation and like support them in having places to get public transportation near them, and then like give them reasons to use it. And, like, all up and down, like it's not just the fucking pothole. It's everything around it, and it's how we're addressing it, and it's all the things that create potholes and contribute to it, and then all the people that are affected by that, and like that feel they need to use fucking cars because cars are the only way to go, and they're not, and like that's creating a problem. So like, but what these campaigns tell you is that use any damn thing to fill every single pothole, because we got to fill those potholes, and you are in control of every single pothole, and that's your responsibility. And that's
exactly
nonsense.
Yeah.
And clearly that didn't work.
No. Potholes like suicide can never be ended completely. So
I love that you said that, Joelle. Yeah.
I want to make sure to give some shout outs on Twitter and the chat before we get too ahead of ourselves. Mark, I tweeted the Twitch link to you, twitch.tv/SPSM chat. So go check that out if Twitch is more your flavor than Twitter. Yes, Henry says, yikes, some of these suicide prevention graphics are pretty cringeworthy. Cringeworthy indeed. There we are on Twitter. That's us. That's not too bad of a delay, actually.
Twitch doesn't really like... Twitch is having a hard time showing up SPSM chat in the search, and I'm not sure if it's because we haven't
I think we just need to
stream.
I think we just need to stream more regularly, and I know that Twitch is very frustrating where it doesn't automatically save your videos. You have to actually go into the back end and check an option. So this video should be available on our Twitch even after we're done with the live stream. So if you're just tuning in late, go check that out. But you can also watch past episodes on our YouTube channel, which is probably the best bet. That way you can see everything very easily. And so Henry says effective suicide prevention focuses on validating and supporting those in crisis, but more importantly, improving mental health and social welfare services rather than just managing acute crisis. Good point. Let's get some comments from the chat. Up for the challenge. Hey, I know him. Says James Bond needs to be checked in clearly, like WTF.
Is it because of the alcohol? If that's what we're going on, then James Bond is screwed. Yeah, the thing I said about James Bond. If that's all we go for, yeah.
Yes, and Up for the Challenge says you were referring to a simile, Joelle.
Oh.
Yep. Using like or as.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So keep the comments coming. Keep the support coming, and feel free to be a part of our discussion. Okay. So I wanted to talk about what does effective suicide prevention actually look like? Like for you, if you're designing a suicide prevention campaign, what would you focus most on? Let's go to Joelle.
So I don't know nothing about making campaigns, but I think the messaging would be important, is that honoring people and not putting your own desires or discomfort first. And when I talk to people about relationships or support they've had in the past that have actually really kind of driven this thought that their option is suicide, or that seems to make sense at the time, it's when they've gotten support or been in relationships that really emphasizes the other person's discomfort or fear or insistence that they need to live. They need to live for their loved ones. They need to live because suicide is wrong and bad. They need to live because suicide means you're crazy. And a lot of it is just not listening to what is actually going on for a person that we can't see all the time. And, there's definitely been situations that I've been involved in, but also situations that have been related to me where when we stop really trying to force that, you have to live, you have to live, you have to live, and talk about, okay, maybe what do you want to do first? Or find some other thing that might be valuable to the person and really honor their sense of agency and what they want to do. Things are going to change a little bit. Instead of focusing on got to keep your heart beating, focusing on what do you want to do first? Do you want to accomplish things first, or anything else except I'm uncomfortable and scared and you have to live for that. How do you put that into a campaign? I have no idea.
Yeah, it sounds easy, doesn't it? We're on the shit talking side. But...
Simple.
What say you? Up for the challenge?
Yeah. Oh, just a fun little side, by the way, on a point I made a minute ago with Matt Hancock. The year he made that comment about wanting to make suicide zero, it went up by nearly 700. So I'm going to be controversial, surprisingly. I don't think we should have a campaign. Because I have issue with campaigns like this in general. I have issue with World Mental Health Day. I have issue with World Suicide Prevention Day. Because what do? They mean that Starbucks, they mean that your local cinema, they mean that whatever your business you are, you can put up a nice poster saying we support this charity. Here, get a discount if you come here, or some bullshit like that. They do absolutely, in reality, fuck all. I would find it very hard to find decent stats that show a dip or a spike that is not explained away by the time of year that happens with the campaigns. And how much money are we spending on those campaigns that could be funneled back into actually fucking helping? Instead of just going, here's a big poster saying how great we are, and this is why you should do this, and this is why you shouldn't do this. How about we have people out there to actually be involved, be there talking to the communities, be there talking to the individuals, actually finding out what's going on, rather than just spouting bullshit at everyone, which is all these campaigns ever do. Even the big ones, like I say, I really have an issue with World Mental Health Day and World Suicide Prevention. When I've seen them, so I used to work for a university before COVID hit, and I sacked it off. I quit. I don't know if that translated in my lexicon there. But before I quit that, World Mental Health Day basically meant they put a load of posters up around the university. They did a staff mental health day, which involved literally for one of the biggest universities in the southeast. It was 3 stalls and a teepee for their staff on World Mental Health Day. And for their for the World Mental Health Day for the students, at one point in a closed off cafeteria where no one could really escape from it, they did a full-on fucking flash dance, which meant everyone with anxiety, autism, various things like that were just trapped. And that continually happened. But of course, it's World Mental Health Day. We can do all this. Aren't we fun? Look how amazing we are. Do your fucking jobs properly, and we wouldn't need this bullshit. And that's kind of what I think. I have serious issue with campaigns, full stop. When I stood as even in politics, when I stood for election, when I was elected locally here, guess what I didn't do? I didn't put fucking posters up everywhere. Guess what I did do? I went and talked to people, and I beat the incumbent politician in the area who always got in by over 1,000 votes, because they actually saw someone. It's exactly the same in terms of mental health, in terms of retail sales, whatever it is. The more you talk to someone, you find out what is the issue, what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, the more you actually get done, rather than just plastering a poster in their face.
What say you, Ysabel?
I will say I agree with everything that has been said about how this field is missing systemic oppression, the social determinants of health. Those things, well, I haven't seen a campaign yet that from a mainstream suicide prevention organization talking about the actual problem. Because for me, and I don't know if this is controversial, but for me, having a suicidal thought is not a problem. Like, that's not the problem for me. The problem is, let's say, the assimilation that I went through while I'm living in this country, or me wanting to get rid of my accent because I wanted people to stop making fun of me. That was the problem, not the suicidal thought. One of the problems, right? So I think, one, we should also talk about people of color, of course, and how when we talk about risk factors and protective factors, they are never culturally relevant anyway. Like, I never seen a mainstream suicide prevention organization talking about how microaggressions and the effects of microaggressions and how they cause trauma is another risk factor for suicide. Like, I don't know why I haven't I personally haven't seen it in any of these campaigns, but the other thing that I want to say is I cannot stand this thing about you need to go to therapy. And it seems like every
Mhm.
single campaign says, if you are showing these signs, it is time to talk to a mental health professional. But they never talk about the consequences of that, first of
Right.
all.
Yeah.
The idea that, for instance, okay, go to therapy. Okay. The referral process, the waiting list, okay, the lack of interpreters if you don't speak English, the lack of racial and ethnic representation, the lack of cultural humility, the fear-based relationships because of the safety planning and mental health status exams, the lack of knowledge of cultural and social risk factors, all of it. Involuntary hospitalizations, all of this is missing. It's like they want to make therapy this wonderful option and the only option that you could ever have to quote unquote get better. And then there comes the part where they talk about refusal. What if they refuse? There's always that part about refusing
Yeah.
therapy. And then people are shamed. So if they don't go to therapy, they are shamed as, oh, but why are you taking care of yourself? Go to therapy, right? And that's the crap out of me. I could keep talking about this forever, but I'm gonna stop there.
No, no, no. We want to hear more and more and more. So SPSM chat has been extended before 4 more hours. So continue. Go.
Oh, okay. Right. So, okay. So there is this idea that, well, if you are not ready yet, ready for what? To speak to a therapist. But why is that the only solution or the only option given? And I'm gonna say this, and I always say it, and every time I say it, I get someone talking crap about me. Therapy is for white people. Just like healthcare is for white people, housing is for white people, transportation is for white people. These things are designed to fit the needs of whiteness. Okay. Now, I am not saying that because of that, that people of color shouldn't go to therapy. I'm just saying that if a person of color goes to therapy, there is a high chance that you would experiment oppression, right? Because the system itself is not designed for us to thrive. So I think there's not a lot of that at all about just social justice in general and what it means in suicide prevention.
Thank you. Thank you. And so before I get back to Up for the Challenge and Joelle, I wanted to highlight some more tweets that I found. Um, and just so you know, the best way for me to see your tweets on Twitter is to use the hashtag SPSM. I know some people replied to the tweet, but also make sure to use the hashtag SPSM. That makes it much easier for me to see it, and that way I can give you the proper shout out because great points are being made. Like from 365 Diversity says that using a white core, putting indigenous, black, Asian, non-white, Hispanic, non-light, Latinx, AO people on website and pamphlets, and when asked what services are provided, not knowing anything beyond sending people an internet link, focusing on making money and not outreach. Yes, if I knew how to snap my fingers, I'd be doing so right now. Another tweet from Fight or Flight says, from Change the Curie one, says campaigns benefit the few, science benefits everyone. It becomes an industry that refuses to participate in logical approaches to prevention, starting with systems, theory, science. We call it fight or flight system for a reason. Extreme flight is suicide, it's unethical. And then Henry says, interesting suggestion from panel member that there should not be a suicide awareness campaign, talking about Up for the Challenge. And so let's go back to to our little grid. And we got some more comments on Twitch. Okay, so let me get to these, and then we'll start while wrapping things up. Delirium Waltz on Twitch says, excellent point about ideation exists. I know I get dark when I realize how painful it is being widowed and having a meaning, a purpose. Delirium also says, as a volunteer crisis counselor, I have this nagging thought that I wonder about variable outcomes after an intervention. We want to hear more from you, Delirium, about your experience, so please keep chatting. Kevix Marks on Facebook says, it's a neoliberal. It only assumes the issue with you and then you need help. No other name is mentioned. Lust Star back again. Glad you found us again. Says, instead of accusing people of being treatment resistant, maybe clinicians need to start asking themselves why the treatment they're offering isn't suitable for that person's needs. And hey, hello, Lusar. How are you? I think that was it. Laz also says, something happens too when these campaigns embolden people to tell those in distress that they are experiencing their distress wrong. This isn't helping. Well, that's not what this brighty color poster says. You aren't trying. Okay, so we covered a lot. Whoa, I need to take a breath. Was there anything that caught your eye that I read off? Anyone?
What? I mean, I was just going to go off of actually something that Ysabel said about culture, because even the idea of therapy is cultural. It's not something I'd expect in the UK at all. We would never talk about therapy. Well, we may talk about counselling and things like that, but the idea of therapy, everyone has a therapist. You should have a therapist. We look at America as being just weird as hell for having that. The idea of it is just not British. It's just, and that sounds like such a annoying thing to say, but it's just not. Like we find, we literally look at it and go, well, that, pardon the pun, but that's fucking crazy. Why do you all need therapists? That's a weird thing to us. It's genuinely weird. In fact, we have a major charity over here that looks at everything else but therapy. I mean, so you look at different areas of helping through exercise and various different things. The idea of therapy itself is a cultural bias in one country. And I think if you go across the world, it just changes everywhere, but the campaigns don't. So one of the posters you brought up earlier, Rudy, I just double checked. It's the same poster in the US and the UK. And that doesn't make any sense because I think people assume because we speak the same language that we think the same things. We really fucking don't. It doesn't make any sense to have it exactly the same. It really doesn't, because we won't treat it the same way. Someone in the US is far more likely to do a certain thing and be shamed for not doing it. In the UK, you wouldn't be shamed for not doing it. You'd be found weird for doing it. It's literally switched in the UK. So it's how we approach that as well, because it's a completely different approach. But we try and find a one size fits all, as these posters try and do, and you just can't do it. And we never take take accounting for individualistic cultures. So not just the big ones, not just people of color, Hispanic, anything like that, but simple. So one I think may come with you here, Rudy, is what about ex-military? You don't think the same way. You just don't. Ex-military have a very different way of thinking about things. A lot of my family were ex-military. I have a lot of friends that are military and ex-military. And there's a very different way that you think about it. In fact, there's a Twitch streamer and YouTuber that I watch quite a lot. Nothing to do with mental health, but he's an ex-service person. His brother works for him. He's also ex-services. And they were talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier the other day, and the scene in there, and the refusal from both of them to interact with the therapy. And he said, and Benny, who is the person from the channel, basically said that of anything there, that sits really true. Because when he came out of the military, there was no connection. He thought people were weak because that's not what you did in his unit. That's just not what happens. And as much as the military try and push it as we want you to talk to each other, that's not the community. It's not the culture of where he was. And if you just try and go, oh yeah, but we don't care about that, just try and do what everyone else is doing. Do what you're civilian now, so just do that. It's not going to work. Do this cookie cutter approach. It just doesn't work. Even with people from the same complete backgrounds, one change changes everything.
You just reminded me that I'm ex-military. I often forget about that. Can I just say that I love your headshot in this photo right here? Okay,
too much
so
hair.
any other
I
thoughts
did, yeah.
before we get into final thoughts, Joelle?
Yes. So where was it? Lustar mentioned the alternatives to suicide approach, which is a lot of it is, giving that space to talk about these things that are supposedly so rare. Like these thoughts of death, these thoughts of dying, these thoughts of taking your own life. Those thoughts aren't actually as rare as these fucking campaigns want to tell you, which is just like, if somebody thinks of dying, oh my God, hit that big red button. No, like a lot of people think of dying at some point in their life, and that is reality because the world's fucking hard. And it is for me now, I'm starting to realize like when I'm having those thoughts, it is telling me like something is wrong. It's actually, informing me that like some things are going very, very wrong in my life. And these campaigns are basically saying if somebody's choosing to talk to you about these thoughts, that's probably going to turn to action. So you should really take it upon yourself to do something about that potential action. Maybe that could possibly happen in the future because, like, and that's incredibly damaging. I think we need to open up and be like, people need to talk about these things and not be freaking out. And I feel like that's what I always say, but like if we could have we have to have a campaign, like, can we chat about suicide and life and death? Because those are things that are realities. Like, we have to live with death.
Yeah, and that reminds me about a statement that I made that I don't consider SPSM chat, at least like the way I host it, a suicide prevention campaign or effort.
Yeah.
I want to provide a platform for people to talk openly about suicide. But my job ultimately is not to save lives. Like I don't keep a running tally of like how many lives I've saved or whatever. I don't or anything like that. I just want to provide the platform, and when you provide the platform, people come, they feel safe, they want to share, and it just so happens when people have that kind of freedom, they tend to not take their own lives. But if they do, that is it can seem unfortunate, but it's also like that was never our intention in the first place, and so I have to remind myself about that from time to time. Is that we here at SPSM Chat, our goal is not to talk people off the ledge, or like I don't imagine like someone's watching SPSM Chat and then they afterwards it was such a good show, or we were firing on all cylinders and then they decided to not take their lives. Like I just want to be the platform, provide the community, and have people talk about it. Some people like you just there's no way to I don't know. It's weird because like I don't like language like trying to get to them, or like it's like that feels like coercive. So I just try to not even have that intention, like whether or not like I'm saving lives. It's just I provide the platform, and I'm responsible about it. Like we don't have jerks on this show. We talk responsibly, but we're not trying to
Certain kinds of jerks.
yeah, we're not trying to censor people too much. We're just trying to just be there for people. So before we get into final thoughts, I just wanted to highlight some last minute chats as they're coming in. Lust Star says the importance placed on clinician intervention while ignoring the benefit of human connection generally annoys me. Approaches like alternatives to suicide have such massive potential for good, but are so rarely available. Yes, we need to have alternatives to suicide. For those who don't know, it's an amazing program, and it's just I can't do it justice explaining
just
it.
had a training for facilitation in Colorado, and we're hoping to expand it more in Colorado, by the way.
So if you could, so Joelle, if you can explain alternatives to suicide in just like a couple sentences, like you'd probably do it better than me. How would you describe alternatives to suicide?
Maybe. So I mean, basically, alternatives to suicide. It's like a framework for like I guess they're support groups, but they're not. You know, when you say that, you think of like this clinical facilitator, and you have a goal, and you go around and say, you know, did you take your meds today? That bullshit. And that's not. You know, it is facilitated by people with experience of having thoughts of suicide or having had an attempt. The facilitators are really mainly there to, you know, secure the space, open the room, uh, you know, open up the group and make the space open for discussion. And there are some guidelines that are, you know, we can't have intervention in terms of like people need to be able to talk about suicide in this comfortable space. It's a community, it's an intentional community where people can do that. They don't want to feel like you're going to call the fucking cops on them. And that's big no-no. You know, we want to try to be as mutual as possible. Though there are facilitators, like there's trained facilitators. And it's, you know, it came actually out of Western Massachusetts. And it is really based on, you know, values of peer support, values of mutuality, and really honoring people's agency and being a welcome and transparent space.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have some alternatives to suicide trainers on in the near future. So let's also let me read one more chat comment before we get into final thoughts. Delirium Waltz again on Twitch says, "Excellent point. When my thoughts are raging, I have to look around me and see what's going. Great tip. Thank you." Oh, one more. Lustar says Wildflower Alliance is actually hosting an Alternatives to Suicide overview online event later this week. It's on Eventbrite if anyone's
On
interested.
Wednesday.
Yes. Big fan of the
Let me find
Wildflower
that.
Allowance. I've actually have gotten the chance to interview some people from that organization in the past, so big fans. So yes, and you can if you find that tweet, Lustar, you can put that in the chat. I allow links in the Twitch chat as well. Okay, let's get on to final thoughts. Apologies if I missed any comments, but final thoughts. Let's go to Joelle.
Okay. I was looking for the alternatives to suicide. Like,
I know. That's why I called on you.
okay, what? Okay, final thoughts on what was our subject? Are we doing anything in suicide prevention? I mean, you know, can't speak worldwide, but like the broader message that is westernized and particularly in the United States, you know, I mean, suicide prevention makes money. And I think they tend to do that. You know, they sell a lot of wristbands. They have a lot of walks. They have, depending on the organization, they have events and board members and T-shirts. You know, they're looking for the research that will tell them about their campaigns so that they can make more research from the future campaign that is formed by the research they're looking for, which will, I mean, they have this like cycle that supports what they're doing so that they continue to do what they're doing. And then, you know, they ask for input from people with lived experience only to be like, well, that sounds like a rash of shit, so we're not going to take it. I mean, they're doing something. Most of the time it's pretty harmful, and they're redirecting funds that could be going to programs like Alternatives to Suicide, that could be going towards respites, that could be supporting people in true agency and, you know, pursuing their own quality of life. That means they're not going to want to die, or not going to see that as the only option. So they're doing things. Are they preventing suicide? I mean, probably fucking not. I think that's my answer.
Thank you, Joelle Marie. Thoughts. At Laz on Twitter and Twitch. So I appreciate you. It's been a long week for you. You were on my Mighty stream on Friday talking about autism and bipolar. Here you are on Sunday. I believe you're going to be on Waba streams on Monday, correct?
No, next week.
Next week. Okay. Thank God. Yes, you need a break. But shout out to Waba streams if you're still on the Twitch chat. Feel free to put yourself over in the Twitch chat. Go for it. And so thank you, Joelle. Much deserved break. Next week I'll have a new panel of awesome people, but I'm so glad that you're here this week and help me to kickstart this relaunch of SPSM chat. So thank you. Okay, final thoughts up for the challenge.
I'm loving the fact that I'm also on that week on Weber Streams, so I'll meet you up again there, Joelle.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to end more controversy, I think, because I was going to mention this in the kind of main body, but I actually have some serious issue with ethics when it comes to suicide prevention. I think we have too many of them. I literally think we have too many of them, because every time you want to do anything, I really hope my lecturers aren't watching me at this point. Anytime you want to do anything, it's always a question of ethics. There's always a question of, does this fit what we have seen here? Does this fit what we want it to do? Does this fit this group? Does this fit the science? I don't fucking care. Does it help? Because what most people seem to have an issue with, and I mention this a lot when I talk about swearing, is that so many people either don't want to get involved in an idea, don't want to be helped by someone, or are scared to, because the second they swear, the second they talk in a certain way, the second they act in a certain way, it's not right, because it doesn't fit our group. It doesn't fit the ethics we have for this group. It doesn't fit the ethics we have for what we want it to be here. And are you given this kind of advice? Instead of just going, how did that work with that person? Was that person responsive? How was this? That's never the question. It's, how can I make this other person who was trying to help feel shit? How can I make the person that was actually suicidal feel even fucking worse because they haven't done it in the right way according to us? I have big issue with ethics in mental health, and I know that's going to sound really counterintuitive for most people, but I think we go too far with ethics, which are all based on a westernized Christian religion in the first place, which is a lot of bollocks. We won't go into that, but the whole point is it causes the same problems. It's a cycle continuously, because we never allow ourselves to expand in any way, because the second we do, we smack it back down because it doesn't act the right way. So for me, the final thoughts would be, get rid of the campaigns altogether and actually help people, and actually do that helping. Don't just go, we're going to get rid of the campaigns and now we're going to do it in a certain way because it fits what we want and it fits our money. No, get rid of the campaigns. Stop fucking about with trying to make sure that everything fits into a specific box, and just help people. Get as much information you can from the actual people who are suffering, because there's enough of them and there's not enough people actually trying to fucking help.
Thank you, Up for the Challenge. Correct me if I'm wrong. You are both Up for the Challenge 2 and 1 on Twitter?
Up for the Challenge 1 has nothing to do with me in terms of this, though. It's all Up for the Challenge 2, but without the final E, so it's Up for the Challenge 2, and that's mental health. The other one is nothing to...
Okay, cool. So we got the correct handle right there on your graphic. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And what can people expect on your next podcast on YouTube?
Oh, it's going to be this. It's the next one I've got tomorrow. It's going to be this. So it is this. You'll I mean, I talk enough anyway, as people would have gathered. But yeah, this is going straight out. So this should be out hopefully midday tomorrow. This whole thing will go straight out on youtube.com/Let's Chat Podcasts with the S at the end. And yes, you can see all this again speed past the bits where I'm never shutting the fuck up.
Yes. I no comment. Isabel, final thoughts.
Oh wow, final thoughts. Okay. Are they working? Well, not for me. I think they are harmful. I think they are also lying. I know that sounds dramatic, but I think they're lying when they say there's help available. Yeah, what kind of help though? Why are we getting into when you say there's help available, right? But anyhow, I would love for these campaigns or whatever to talk about how having suicidal thoughts or whatever is not always a crisis. Like I think about dying all the time, literally, and more than half of the, more than half, it's not like I don't need to call anybody or anything. I just want to die because life sucks, and that's it. Like it's not, like what? Hello, like are we living in a perfect society world? No. So sometimes I want to die, and I want to say I want to die without having to say, oh, I'm safe, by the way. Like on Facebook, I always have to make sure to say, I'm safe, by the way, because I know that there are people who might call the police on me.
That's fucking awful.
Without my consent. And that's part of that's a cultural thing as well, that I feel these campaigns propagate. So I just wish that these campaigns will be like, hey, no, it's having thoughts of that is not necessarily, oh my God, they're gonna do it or anything like that. Also, I would love for these campaigns to stop with the you are not alone, reach out for help, scrap, and just be real. Just have the conversation. Maybe like I love death cafes. I don't know if you have heard of death cafes, but basically we just have dialogues about death. That's it.
Yeah.
We just talk about that, and it's like maybe a couple of open-ended questions, whatever, and there's no an agenda or anything like that. It's very chill. I wish that those kinds of dialogues or approaches will be promoted more. I also believe that we have to stop with the individual responsibility thing that is very white and capitalist, and move on to systemic responsibility. And instead of saying, oh, well, you're suicidal, well, you need to go to therapy and whatever. But what about, okay, but do you have enough food? Do you have transportation to even go to the grocery store? Like Joel was saying, like where are we where is the space to hold the system accountable? So instead of just putting pressure on people to drink water, exercise 3 times a week, and if you don't, you're a bad person. What about actually looking at these systems that are exploiting us on a daily basis, right? And then I also wish that they will be more honest about the consequences of reaching out to the system. So if I'm talking to a Black person and I'm talking about resources, especially a Black man, right? Well, yeah, there's the lifeline number, but FYI, if you say you are thinking about suicide and want to do it, they might call the police on you without your consent, and you might die just because you're a Black man. Like I wish these things were said out loud, because it's real. It's real. It happens all the time. And then lastly, I would love for more promotion of cultural strength, because suicide prevention, I think, is really deficit based, right? I wish that we could talk about what we already have. So for instance, in the Black community, and in the Latinx community, we have hairstylists and barbers who are a huge part in our culture, who are mental health advocates, but they are not seen that way. So I wish that we could have conversations with these, cultural supports that we have that can just help, just like the best therapists or whatever. They can also help, and they don't have all this behind them.
Thank you, Ysabel. At Estoy Aqui, LLC on Twitter, where else can we connect with you?
Yes, so on Facebook is also Estoy Aqui LLC. Instagram, Estoy Aqui LLC. I made it easy. Yeah, I made it easy with Estoy Aqui LLC. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I am currently I have my own programs or training and things like that I'm offering. So, and that all from a racial and social justice perspective. So, if you have an organization that is interested in those types of approaches, I am here.
Is it safe to say at this point that you're famous?
Me?
Yeah.
Am I?
I'm calling it. Yes. Isabel, we
That's
have
a dream.
we have celebrity royalty on SPS Chat. Isabel Garcia. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. Please do not forget us when you're just ginormous.
That is so funny.
Yes. Okay. So that is going to do it for this week's SPSM chat, our second episode back, and boy howdy, are we on a roll. And I want to first off, give some quick shout outs to the people on the Twitch chat and the other chats. Lustar, thank you for your comments. And thank you to as well to Waba, of course, to Delirium Waltz. Thank you to at Change to Kiri One on Twitter, as well as 365 Diversity and Henry and Mark on Twitter as well, and to Kevix on Facebook. I appreciate you. Let's do the old spiel. Facebook.com/SPSM chat. Please make sure to follow us. We want to continue growing that. Following YouTube.com/SPSM chat, where you can watch all past episodes, all going all the way back Doc Foreman days. Go to twitch.tv/SPSM chat, and of course, twitter.com/SPSM chat. We are, of course, at SPSM chat on Twitter. Make sure to use the hashtag SPSM even throughout the week, even like outside of our weekly show. So keep the brand alive. And of course, spsmchat.com, where you can also read us in blog form, as I try not to be too wordy in those, so they're very basic, but you check them out anyway. I'm Rudy Caceres at Rudy Caceres on Twitter. Go to my website, rudycaceres.com, to learn more about the work that I do. And if you want to collaborate, feel free to email me as well. There's a contact form on the website, or you can also DM the at SPM chat account on Twitter. Our DMs are open for you. Don't abuse the privilege. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you to Joelle Marie. Thank you to Up for the Challenge. Thank you to Ysabel Garcia. Oh, until next Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Sign us off. Up for the challenge.
How am I signing you off? Just we'll see you next time.
Yep.
You go that.